All right, hello guys. Welcome to our personal branding workshop. If you haven't registered already, please do. QR code's right there. It's right there. So yeah, feel free to do it if you haven't already. Jack, next slide. So here's what today's agenda kind of looks like. Nice and simple. We're currently just doing welcomes and introductions, and then we'll be having a workshop, followed by a Q&A, and then we'll hopefully wrap up around 8:30. Next slide, please. So here's the team. If you don't know, Millie is our GDSE lead. Our event managers are Cheryl and Sadiq, tech experts PK and Sean, and there's me alongside Andy and Jackie, were the design experts. So yeah, next slide. So yeah, we're very lucky to be joined with Gwenny here. She's a cloud engineer and curriculum developer, and she'll be helping us host our personal branding workshop. So yeah, Gwenny, would you like to take over now?
Hello. Yes, I'd love to. Thanks for having me, everybody. I'm Gwenny. I closed my 1,000 tabs earlier in preparation of this. So you're welcome for me not stressing you out.
It's honored. What an honor.
And I'll just see if I can share the tab. Yeah, cool. So Milindi asked me to talk about personal branding, but I know you've got your job ready month, like all month, and that you've already been working on, was it your CVs and your LinkedIn profile as well that you've worked on?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So I kind of checked in about whether she wanted me to cover, or like whether you need information on like just the job application process, or just resumes, or like cover letters. So it was like all of it is relevant to you at the moment is what I've understood. So we're going to cover like a little bit of everything. So go through preparing for the actual job hunt. So the things you can actually get ready before you start looking for a job or before you start applying. What you can do to have like a better chance of getting an interview once you're in the interview process. What you can do to kind of, I don't like the word perform in that situation, but to have a good interview experience and put your best foot forward. I have also had horrific interview experiences and like learned some things along the way that helped me, but I think we're all different. So part of it is finding out about yourself as well. Is there anything I haven't mentioned that people would like covered? Would you mind popping that in the chat now and I'll have a look? And you can ask me questions anytime. Feel free to come off mute and interrupt me, or just put them in the chat. I'll kind of keep it up beside and try and keep an eye on them as well. And I'm happy to answer questions about anything, like nothing's off limits. I can't see anything people have said, but yeah, if you think of any gaps or anything that hasn't made sense, just like, yeah, pop a question in the chat or come off mute. And I thought, since it's personal branding, I would put my LinkedIn profile there for you. So firstly, I'm always grateful to be in on the Wurundjeri and Boon Wurrung people's land, which was never ceded. I think of our Indigenous people as the like OG technologists. They have just thousands and thousands of years of technology and science, and it's, I think, really good that we are starting to see a little bit more of a trend towards writing like atrocities. Not that you can write atrocities, but we're seeming to make a little bit of progress. But yeah, I acknowledge elders past and present. I acknowledge any Indigenous people on the call, Indigenous communities around the world who have really led the way in terms of technology and also creativity and innovation. I thought I would ask you questions about, if you were an employer, what would you think looking at my profile? So maybe just have a think about that while I introduce myself. So you have a bit of context on why I was asked to speak tonight. I am a career changer into tech. So I had a career in music, actually, originally classical music. I was a double bass player. I went into teaching English. So mostly in like the international education space for students going into university in particular or business, and did some academic support along the way, so helping students kind of figure outside the classroom, fill in the gaps. So I got to see that flip side of course material and what students weren't saying to their teachers, like what they were kind of missing. I then went into curriculum development, so writing the course books that I used to teach from, mostly again in academic skills like research, critical thinking, also kind of professional skills and communication skills. And since high school, I'd really been really into English. So for a long time, I've had friends show me their resumes and ask me about that. And as I've kind of progressed in my career, both in education and now in tech, I've been able to be on that other side, so that more on the hiring side and seeing people's CVs, their cover letters, how they present themselves online, and whether that then leads to an interview, and also then being part of the interview process. I'm working as a cloud engineer now, but I did study like all of you. I didn't do a degree. I have a master's, but it's in like linguistics from like education. So I did a boot camp. If any of you know the Coder Academy one, it's like 6 months. It's like a diploma of IT. So it's some computer science subjects, mostly coding from like day one. And you do a mix of languages. Can I check as well before I keep talking about anything tech related? Can you pop in the chat your area? Like if you're like a developer, or if you're studying like computer science, or if you're studying a particular language like Java, or if you're doing like data science or design or something. Can I just get an idea of who I'm talking to? So software engineering, love it. So mostly web dev and like comp sci. Thank you for putting those in there. Ooh, mechatronic engineering, that sounds so cool. Pancho, if I'm saying that right, do cloud. It's awesome. Recruiter, cool. Debbie, if you want to jump in anytime and correct anything I say, go for it. Or add your opinion. Mechanical engineering and industrial design, cool. Software engineering, data science. So with data science and cloud, those are like more niche and you can get a higher salary, just for reference. I'm going to put that out there from the start. And working with a partner in recruitment. Awesome. You're here to poach the students maybe. So now that you've heard my background, but you can see my profile, I was wondering what you thought, what do you think an employer would take away from looking at that profile? What judgment do you think, or what kind of like estimate might they make about me as an employee? You can come off mute or like put a comment in the chat. I changed this so many times because I was like, oh, I want them to know that like I'm a whole person, because I'd worked in spaces where you couldn't be multi-talented. I was very generous. But I also wanted them to know when I was career changing, I wanted to leverage like my writing and curriculum skills into tech and kind of show that I could pay attention to details, and that I could edit things, and that I could structure things, and that I could think logically. So I kind of wanted to show a lot of that stuff. That's what I was thinking. No other suggestions? That's okay. Lots of experience. I actually don't. So I changed into tech formally 2 years ago. So I had zero technical experience. I'm not like a stereotype. I didn't like tinker with computers. I wasn't into gaming. I like maths was okay, but I wasn't super into it. When I did music, friends would actually joke about how untechnical I was, because I used to get confused with like the guitar pedals, because the input and the output are like the output goes into your guitar, and I would get confused with like the way around. So most of my friends were really surprised when I moved into tech. But I'd started working in like learning design, and I think you're on Canvas at RMIT, your LMS, your learning management system. slightly triggering for me as a curriculum developer who left the industry. But when you're working in something like Canvas, you don't have much control over the activities you're choosing. And I'm sure some of you learn English as a second or third or other language. It's really important to give people the right types of activities and lots of opportunities to practice language in different ways. And probably lots of you know that from firsthand experience. And when we were building activities in Canvas, we weren't able to do that, or things weren't best practice in terms of how people learn. So for example, like flashcards, when you change, like you guess a word and then you see like a definition and then you guess the word because you're trying to give your brain the chance to recall the word and build your vocabulary. It would have stuff like, it would have the word, the recording with the definition. And we were like, no, we want the sound to be with the word when they actually guess the word. And there were a lot of things like that were really frustrating. And that was actually what kind of spurred my interest into programming. So I knew that somehow these things were built using like letters and characters, which is code. And I just was like, can I swear on here? Probably not. I swear a lot. I'll try not to. I was like, stuff it. I'm going to learn how to do it myself. And I just started asking people, like I had two friends whose like partners were engineers. I asked, my boyfriend at the time knew about code a bit, and I was like, but I don't, like, what's the internet built on? Like, what is HTML? It made no sense to me. Even trying to Google, like I didn't know what to Google. But eventually, like I understood more and more. I looked things up. I started doing self-learning. So things like if anyone's used Dash by General Assembly, really recommend that if you're wanting to get your head around web development more, or kind of do examples that aren't super ugly and like don't make sense. It's like really nice interface. So I started doing things like that. And then I started teaching for Code Like a Girl, who are a Melbourne social enterprise. Some of you might have heard of them. And they teach young girls to code. So from like ages 8 to 15. And they'd reached out to me because of my teaching background and said, would you consider teaching? Like, we provide all the material. And they were totally happy with someone being self-taught, because I was like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. And they were like, that's okay, all the content's there. So I actually learnt a lot of programming doing that as well. And then I actually got fired from a job and was like, oh, well, I can start a boot camp early, because by then I knew that I wanted to do a boot camp and transition into tech. For me, like I didn't want to do a degree because I already had two, and I didn't want to spend years in studying. And I believed that, like I know of people that have self-learned tech and have done that. Having said that, a degree is still beneficial. It's very beneficial. And there's still maybe a bit of a, preference for people with a degree. So your degree will, I think, be like a good stepping stone for you. Like it's always a benefit to show an employer that you can like put in that time, that you can learn those subjects in depth, and you have a lot of projects that you can draw from when you have interviews. So if you don't have any formal experience, like having your degree and projects that you've done there is what you can then talk to. Are there any questions before I move on? Just initially. That's cool, Patricia. They're a great organisation. Okay, so I used to have an opinion that personal and professional branding were different. Who thinks they're different? Who thinks they're the same? Who doesn't know or doesn't care? So personal branding is really like, what people see or what people are able to see, and that's mostly online at the moment. About your personal interests, like your personal passions, what you like doing, your hobbies, things like that. Whereas professional is your workplace. So that is maybe the skill set that you're known for, the professional skills that you can demonstrate that you used or that you can talk about using, and the experience you have, and then also transferable skills that you might be bringing across from other jobs or other experiences. Because today, social media is so ubiquitous and we have so much information online, particularly that's accelerated obviously at the moment in lockdowns in a lot of Australia, well, Melbourne and Sydney mostly, they really have merged, in my opinion. So they used to be maybe separate or considered separate, and people would have like, you know, a work life, and then they would have their personal life, and those two things were kind of kept separate. But today it just isn't as easy to separate that. And companies are also tending to be more interested in you as a person, because we know that it's more sustainable when someone can bring their whole self to work, and because STEM industries in particular have had to wake up to, you know, really toxic culture and unsustainable like workplace practices, and they have had to change basically. So your personal brand, for the purposes of this talk, is really your professional brand. So it's what businesses can find out about you online or from work that you've done, and the information that might tell them whether you're someone that they might like to have working with them. And Rafat, I saw your question. I will talk about that a little bit later, I believe. So preparing to job search, and I kind of have broken this into stages for you. Where you're at now, I understand all of you are currently at university. So I know you're a mix of undergrad, masters and postgrad. Some of you might have experience on the job. Some of you might not. Don't worry if you don't have formal experience, there are still a lot of things you can talk about. So what other things that were useful for me, for example, and for people I've spoken to in terms of preparing to job search? And just to give you context as well for me, so I graduated from my boot camp in 2019 in, it was like July, the middle of the year. I did a second internship at NAB, the bank, for 6 months, and they were like 12 or 6 month internships. It's a really great grad program. That's an option for all of you. They have all different subjects as well. But I knew, because I've been going to meetups and finding out about different topics, that I really wanted to go specifically into DevOps and cloud. Because when I did the boot camp, it didn't make sense to me writing code at an application level and then not knowing like what system that application was working in, whether it was efficient, whether there were considerations that might impact the performance of the app that I was writing. Like, I was like, well, why would I care how I write something in an app if it's going to be shit anyway? Like, sorry, if it's going to be like rubbish anyway, how it's running, because of the way it's set up. So that was just the way that my brain worked. And I tend to be someone that likes to understand the whole kind of picture. So for me, I identify as like a really slow learner, and it takes a really long time for me to form a mental model of concepts, particularly in tech. So, yeah, when I went into that first internship, I told them, look, I really want to be in DevOps or cloud, that like we can kind of use them interchangeably, although they're not the same thing technically. And I think I was the only intern out of like 100 and something that went into DevOps. They were like, yeah, cool. They're very open to try and match you up with what you're interested in. So I really encourage you all to, I don't think I've even written this down. Oh, no, I have a bit actually. But I encourage you all to think about, you know, what areas you might be interested in. It's great that some of you are already starting to think about that or are already noticing that. You have those options available to you. It's an industry where you can kind of change areas as well. So also don't stress about it if you're not sure. Like you'll do projects and then you'll get more opinions. So for me, I did that second internship. Then I went into, the first internship. I took a second internship in like February of 2021, just before COVID hit in Australia. And the reason I took that second internship instead of a job, because I was interviewing for jobs at the moment, and I was in really late stages of interviews for like really cool jobs. Like one was a DevOps engineer role in like Zendesk in like Denmark. And that sounded really cool. And they were just researching like about how the visa would work. But this company was a place with a culture I wanted to work at. And they also didn't make me do a technical exam. So that's also something we'll talk about more, but I was very opinionated about that. That's a really big red flag to me. If a company wants interns or grads to do take-home exams and to use your time like that, I like reject it and I don't agree with it. And I think it's gatekeeping. So they didn't make you do that. You just talked about a project you'd worked on, like anything at all. And they also called me back like the afternoon after my interview and showed like they were really interested in having me on board. They thought I was a really good fit. And I was comparing that with my experiences of some interviews that were like literally 6 or 7 stages long. And I'd been going for like a month. And, you know, I'd had like a technical test and then like a follow-up technical interview and then a culture interview and then like another culture interview that was ThoughtWorks, although like I highly recommend ThoughtWorks. But yeah, so for the context in terms of the job search, in terms of the timing, the reason I'm talking about this is because I did things very quickly compared to all the other people in my bootcamp. So I went into, even though I did 2 internships, I was hired during COVID last year. So that was April last year as an associate. And I think I was the only intern that got hired because they kind of found a role for an associate, which is a junior cloud engineer. And then I was promoted in like November last year to cloud engineer, and I've been at the same place since then. In comparison, a lot of the people I graduated bootcamp with were in junior dev roles for like a year or longer, like they're still in them. And in terms of salary, who wants to know about salary? I'll give you the juicy goss. In terms of grad programs, they're kind of generally between, it's like if I give a big range, it's between like mid 40s to mid 60s. For me, both of the ones I did were around like I think $58,000 a year or pro rata. Like I was 3 days and 4 days. And then where I'm at now, it was I got hired, it was like maybe 70,000 I think, when I was hired as a junior cloud engineer. But to compare with like the developers, also most of my other cohort, there are about I think 30 of us that did the bootcamp. I think almost all of them except one went into software engineering roles as juniors. Some people did unpaid internships. I really encourage you to find paid internships and grad programs. There are lots of opportunities that are paid. You shouldn't be working for free. And their salaries were kind of low 60s for like a year minimum. And one of the guys that was like, he was the best programmer in the class by far. And we were both at NAB, but then he went to a startup and yeah, he was on a low salary for like, I think it only just got bumped like quite a bit. For me, I was on like 70,000. And then I think when I got promoted to cloud engineer, I was offered 115. So it was like a 40K jump. And then I had like, a 6 monthly check and it went up another 5,000 to 120K. So I think most of my software friends, so also someone in my same cohort bootcamp that is at the same place as me, I think she was on like mid 60s instead of 70 for cloud because she was a developer. So it also depends on like the market. It depends on a lot of things. And then when she got a promotion, I think it was up to 90,000. And I think she's probably gone up further since then. But you can see the kind of amount you'll have time at a lower salary when you're new, but the amount you can jump up in cloud and data science and those kind of more specialized areas is higher. So not everyone cares about salary, but if you do, that's a consideration. So what can we do? Firstly, audit our personal brand, and we'll do an activity on that next. Secondly, curate, like use it to your advantage. So some people, if for privacy reasons you don't want anything online, like my ex-boyfriend was like that. He would somehow delete like every image and every link of him that was ever on the internet. However, if you're happy to have some information visible, you can use it to your advantage and you can have information there that does position you in a way that would be appealing to an employer. When I say be engaged in your industry, I was thinking of something like, for example, for tech, it's Twitter that is really prominent, like for tech kind of conversations and people and content. If you're not already on Twitter, like I never used to be on it, I used to hate it. I was like, why would I just want to read a bunch of people's opinions? And I just thought it was stupid. But then when I joined tech, it kept coming up as something, and people always gave their Twitter handles. And it's something I now look at every day. And it's a platform that when you can follow people that are in the industry or people that are kind of talking about whatever platform or product you're interested in, also just kind of general like subjects. But that's where you get the most up-to-date information the earliest. So depending on whatever area you go into, the platform might be different. But like Twitter and Reddit are probably the best ones. And they're where I've learned about all the kind of nuances of technical topics and technical concepts. So when you're going to work on stuff, you'll have like a really concrete kind of task that you'll be doing, like, I don't know, building a feature or something. Where I am at the moment, so I'm at a consultancy, like a Google Cloud Platform consultancy, and we are on clients because it's a consultancy. So I'm with ANZ at the moment. And when you're at a place like ANZ, there are things like design decisions you have to do because everything has to be kind of justified. And that means you need to understand like the pros and cons of a decision. And those are really hard concepts to understand when you're trying to even understand the concept of like programming, you know? So Twitter is a really good place to kind of read up on different topics and start understanding people's opinions and how they sit within the wider topic, and people's kind of feelings about things and how those things shift over time. And you can also obviously be engaging in that by like retweeting people or commenting or whatever you prefer. I'm like an introvert and like a lurker, I guess they say, which I don't like that term either. I think I'm very curious and I'm very interested in things, but I don't like posting my own kind of opinions very much. But I spoke to this woman from my work today, Kerry, who is like in people and culture, and she is responsible for a lot of hiring and also for a lot of the talent programs at Mantle Group, where I'm at. And she was saying, what was she saying about social media? Oh yeah, she was saying she wants to see that you're a whole person. She wants to know that you have interests and passions and that you're not just, I don't know, kind of like someone that doesn't want to be engaged with like what they're doing or enthusiastic about what they're doing. So I wanted to share that with you. I thought that was interesting. I'll talk about that more later. I'll go a bit quicker because I'm rambling. The other things I thought of were potentially creating content if you're not already. Your perspective as an individual with all of your collected lived experiences means that you have a unique perspective. So probably the most common barrier I hear for people that are like, oh, well, I'm new, or like, well, I'm not going to be saying anything that hasn't been said already. That's not true, because the way that you communicate and your perspective and how you have understood a topic is unique to you. So I really encourage you to consider, in whatever way is comfortable for you, creating content. So whether that's like writing tweets, or every day you do like a today I learned. So like a guy at my work just shared on his LinkedIn, he's got his own website and he just does a little today I learned every day. And sometimes it's just like one line, and it'll be like, you know, a command that he used in his command line or something, or like a word he learnt from a programming language. But if you can just do anything like that, that's also a really good tool to use for like the job hunt process. And it's also something that can help you learn. Networking, you can see, is a massive chunk, and I listed out like everything that I could think of. Online, it's really easy to go to meetups now, which we're really lucky about, I think. I encourage you to present at meetups. Again, like even if it's something you think is simple, there are people that don't know that topic, and there are meetups for every level of experience. Volunteering is probably the thing that I think has impacted my career the most. So I was not only promoted really fast, I got hired with no gaps. I had no trouble like getting a job, where I had other people in my boot camp who didn't get a job for like 6 to 9 months. I'm sure that it was my personal brand, and I wasn't even super intentional about it. I had a profile that like I kept it up to date in terms of reflecting my experience, like, and honestly. So I was saying like when I was studying, I had that information there, and I had like the expected finish date. So even when I wasn't finished, I had on my resume software developer, and I had on my resume the languages we were using. And then I had in the dates in my uni, like the date that I was meant to finish. So yeah, I think that if you do those kind of networking activities on your own terms, so it's in a format that is comfortable for you. So for me, I am really intimidated by like social interaction, particularly after COVID. Like I'm horrified by group activities, and I just like usually don't go because I get too anxious. But if I'm volunteering and I feel like I'm helping someone, I'm not nervous or worried at all. So for me, I volunteered for groups that aligned with like the things I cared about. So I really care about improving diversity in tech because it has really real world impacts that are like harmful, and because it's not right. And so I used to volunteer for Girls in Tech, who are a global nonprofit, and it's any gender can like volunteer for those groups as well. And through that organization, I think I ended up getting a job. I got like referred for other jobs. I had experience that looked really good when I career changed, because I actually volunteered for Girls in Tech before I was in tech. And then when I was starting to look for jobs, I'd already been to all these conferences and events and heard people speak about technology and learn about all of these different jobs that were out there. So I had a lot of information about the industry that I was able to talk about in interviews, or that I also was able to figure out that cloud was even a thing and why I liked it. So in terms of like Rafat's question, how did I know cloud was right for me, was because I had heard of this area called DevOps, where it was about making things better, automating things where possible, making things optimized and more efficient, and also sharing knowledge and having a like healthy culture. And those things really appealed to me. So that's how I kind of knew that DevOps existed and that it was the right thing for me. The other things I thought were important with networking was being curious about people's experiences. So whether it's at events or on LinkedIn and you hit someone up just coldly. So like I yesterday wrote to some Google woman because I was just really, I'd seen her post, and then I looked at her profile and I just thought she was amazing. And so I just wanted to tell her. And I don't do that often. Like that's the first time I've done that probably this year. But when you're genuinely curious, like contact people and, connect with them, share your curiosity. Ask for introductions or introduce yourself. So that's leaning on your personal network. Another example of that is if you're looking up companies that you might be interested in, or companies you might be interested in working for. So for example, for me, because I care about diversity, companies that had sponsored Girls in Tech events were companies I looked at, and then I would look at like whether they had kind of equal representation on their board, whether they had like people of color in their leadership, and women, and or like gender diverse people. And I kind of knew those companies way before I was applying for jobs. So I was kind of keeping an eye on them, seeing what they were doing, seeing if there were jobs coming up. And in some cases for you, because you're at RMIT, I think most of you might be at other unis as well. Sometimes when you're looking at jobs, particularly if overseas, you might have an alumni from your university. And in those situations, that's an option for you to reach out to. So you could, like I used to look at the company and then look at jobs and then like look at the people, and I'd look through and see if there was anything in common. And if there was, like I didn't need to go to make other connections, but something that can also make job hunts go faster is having those personal connections. So you could hit up someone that was at your university or that studied at a similar subject to you and just say, look, I noticed this on your profile. Are you able to tell me how you're feeling at that job, and like whether you like this company because I'm thinking of applying there, or like, can I talk to you for 20 minutes about where you work? I'm interested in applying and I want to know if I'd be a good fit. So that's another way you can network if you're comfortable doing that. And also connect with others about shared interests or goals. So in tech, and most of you are devs, there's these things people do that they're all really into. So like rock climbing is one. Like so many developers are into rock climbing and like bouldering, gaming, Discord like groups, and then things like Dungeons and Dragons and like other games. So if you're in any of those like interest groups, that is also a really good way to connect with people and have those personal connections. There are like developer groups that do that. So like I recommend that as well. I really encourage you, if you can, to develop like as clear a vision as possible and as clear a direction as possible, given the information you know about yourself now, in terms of what you want for the future. Rock climbing. So for example, for me, I knew that I didn't want to work at a toxic workplace again. So culture for me was like absolutely number one. I cared less about salary, about the work, about everything else. Learning and development opportunities were really close number two, because I love learning and I don't want to work for a company that doesn't give you the time and space to do that. Because as I said, I'm quite a slow learner. So I want an environment where they support you to learn at your own pace and they encourage you to all grow, and they also acknowledge that you are all diverse. So I also don't identify as neurotypical. And it also mattered to me that they kind of accept people learn and communicate in different ways. So if you know those things, it makes it easier to find the companies that you're going to be a good fit for. For me, I learned that the hard way. Like I worked in a couple of toxic workplaces and I burnt out. Like I got fired from one that was like super sexist. So I learned that like over years. You can, I think if you like think about it, you already know those things about yourself, and you can use that knowledge to your advantage. And the last thing I included in that, just that mental preparation and then the actual way you show up, is practice gratitude. So job hunting can be pretty like demoralizing sometimes. It can feel a little bit hopeless. It can be a long game, so it can take like 3 to 6 months or longer from the point of where you know you might want to work somewhere to preparing your application, to actually applying, to waiting for them to respond to you. It can take a really long time. So if you can cultivate this kind of attitude of gratitude where you're grateful for the things around you and you're grateful for the rejections you receive because they help you get closer to your goal of working somewhere that you want to work for. What was I going to say? Yeah, it also protects you mentally, you know, like if you can be resilient and you can practice gratitude, it means that you're like less likely to feel anxious and depressed. And it means that you're creating those pathways in your brain that are going to keep you in a kind of positive enough mental state that you're able to perform at your best, whatever you're wanting to do. And lastly, I talked about this a little before, but try and have realistic expectations. So that friend I talked about who worked at the startup and he was on like low 60s for his first job, where I was on like 70 and I was crap compared to him. He asked them, like he asked me like, should I negotiate? I'm like, absolutely. And he did, but they were like, no, we can't. We're a startup. We don't have the funding. And I thought he was getting paid way too low for his experience. And he could have gone somewhere and got more money, I think. But also he had this understanding of just that is the way the industry is at the moment. He cared more about like the company he was at and he wanted the experience in a startup. So he was willing to take that lower salary. In terms of for you, think about those kind of expectations. Do you want a higher salary versus are you willing to work for a really good company for potentially a lower salary for longer? And be really patient. It's a time-consuming process. Ideally, you're curating your CV for every role. And, you know, we don't all have that kind of time and energy, but yeah, be patient with yourself, be patient with people getting back to you, assume that they've just forgotten if they haven't and get in touch, and just have yourself in a good headspace to kind of do the job hunting and the interviews. So let's do a little personal brand audit. And if you'd like to get out your phones or your computers, and this is what I thought we could do, just search. I recommend incognito just so you see what's coming up that's not in your cache. What images show up, what content shows up, is it all relevant to like and or going to support your job search? So let's say a recruiter Googles your name Are they going to see anything where they're like, oh, like this person might be a risk, or any red flags? And then in terms of all your social media accounts, so whatever you're on, Facebook, obviously LinkedIn, Twitter, like Instagram, whatever you've got publicly visible, can you see evidence of a person that is kind of a person, like they have different interests and different opinions? And can you also see evidence of them potentially being a good colleague? So like, are they maybe having fun, or are they like contributing to the environment or something? The flip side of that, of course, is are they sharing any opinions that are like really hateful or discriminatory or prejudiced? In which case that's a red flag for an employer. And lastly, look at your LinkedIn and think about the words. So remember on the first slide I showed you, I had a little personal summary. I had a bunch of keywords in a bullet point list. And then I've also got like all my job experiences. Based on what you have currently on your LinkedIn, if you have a LinkedIn, if I am going to search as a recruiter software developer, are you going to show up? What if I search software engineer? What if I search web developer or full stack web developer? What if I search like HTML or I don't know what languages you've done. Like I think C# is common at RMIT programming, or C. You're probably doing like React or Java, okay? There is a lot of work in Java because all legacy like code is in Java, so you will always have work. So that's good. So yeah, if I search, have you got Java on your profile? And have you got like programming on your profile? So have a look, start having a little search. And if anyone wants to like publicly search and share screen with us, that would be fun too. Does anyone want me to search their name and tell you my opinion? You don't have to. Ooh, is it PK? Or Protai? I wasn't sure. I saw it.
Yeah. Everyone calls me PK. So
PK. Yes, thank you. Let me do this window. Can you see like Google? Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's do PK social media. I also sometimes do the city, like Melbourne, if like something's not coming up to kind of see. So straight away I'm looking, like that looks pretty good. Google Developer Student Hub, sounds legit. I don't know what that is. I find those things weird when they show up. I can see this is a pretty recent event, so I would look at that. Ooh, is he saying something appropriate on Twitter or inappropriate? Let's see. So we can see he's like doing stuff in the industry, so that's cool. So when I asked Kerry from People and Culture or like recruitment, what she would look at, she was also saying like, is it someone that is engaged in the industry? Are they sharing information about the industry? Do they have a passion for it? And it wasn't about like, are your technical skills good? It's about your passion. So as a junior or as someone entering the industry or as someone with like early career, even like me, you're getting hired for your potential. You're not expected to know everything about tech. You're expected to be enthusiastic and passionate and like interested. So, you know, can we see that from the profile? Google things, super profesh so far. Travel video, could be risky. No red flags. Melbourne, cool. So I'm like thinking, oh, he's like creative. I'm thinking he'll fit in well at Mantle Group because he's like a person that's just enjoying life and like has a life outside of tech. Oh, I lost my search. Is there anyone else that wants to volunteer? Chaamudi, you don't exist in Google, do you? That's not very nice. Medium is really great. So that's telling us he's like, he's engaged enough to have like created a profile and to be reading about the industry. The other thing I'm noticing is that these are consistent across all of his profiles. So really often that's really different, particularly if someone's new to the career or career changing. And I know that when I was entering the industry, I felt unconfident about having software developer in my title. And we had this big discussion about it in our boot camp. And from a recruitment point of view, like they're not necessarily looking for a junior. So it's kind of up to you whether you put junior or like associate or whatever. As long as you put software developer or software engineer or whatever phrase you prefer. I looked at like what was more common and I ended up choosing, I think, I put cloud engineer recently. I used to have DevOps and I used to just have the fields I was in. So you can also kind of evaluate like what is getting searched more, what's more common, and change the keywords accordingly to that. Milindi, let's check Milindi too. So what do we think if PK would rehire him? I'd hire you based on your personal brand that is only visible. So lead, so that's great as well, because not only is that in technology, but it's, and same with PK, he had like mentor, but that's showing me as well like leadership qualities, which is something that tech needs people that can not only do technical things, but communicate about them. And that's probably the biggest gap in tech. People being able to speak about technology to the business owners or the stakeholders who have to make those decisions and don't necessarily have the full context. What robot do we have? So her GitHub's second, so that's really good too, because it's like industry relevant. Her image is like really friendly and like colorful, which is suggesting like to me creative. And I know that that's kind of customized. She's not just used the default, not that you like have to, but that's great too. She has her resume easily available, which is good. Can I also judge your resume? I'm brutal. So for this presentation too, you're going to see a screenshot of my boyfriend, like literally the world's shittest resume I've ever seen. And I was like, can I use your resume as a before and after? He was like, why? I'm like, it's the worst resume I've ever seen. I like redid it for him and improved it. But he's a lead, so he's been in tech his whole career and is has gotten lots of jobs. But I asked him, like, I was like, have you seriously like gotten a job with this resume? And he was like, your face, like the face you had when you asked me that question. But I was just like, are you serious? Like, it's terrible. So I'm going to come back to this, Milindi, when we do resumes up next. Did people find anything that they need to change on their social media? So I, for example, found that I had photos of myself in like 80s dress, drinking a bottle of Passion Pop. And I was like, it's not the worst. On my Facebook, you know how you have like old photos on Facebook from when people use Facebook more? It like wasn't the worst, but I was like, I don't think a potential employer needs to see that. So I like really culled my photo permissions when I was job searching. So you might want to as well just kind of consider your privacy kind of settings as well. You purged yours. Good choice. Oh, I can't find you. Maybe you also purged. Oh, that could be you. I find Facebook's a bit more incriminating than other social media platforms. No, see, that looks good. Milindi also is looking very hireable. So if I come back to the slides, so let's move on from our personal brand audit. PK, should you keep Facebook and Instagram private? So like I said, you can use it to your advantage. Recruiters probably will look it up. So if you think that you don't want them seeing it, sure, make it private. If there are certain things you would be happy for them to see and it aligns with like how you want to show up professionally, keep it. So like my LinkedIn's fully visible and my Twitter's fully visible. I just mostly retweet on Twitter, but I'm just constantly amplifying minority voices. So I don't want if an employer has a problem with that, like I don't want to work for them. You know what I mean? So I keep that there, even though I will post pretty, like a lot of activist kind of stuff, a lot of feminist stuff. I used to think about it more carefully, and kind of think, oh, well, what if like they have a problem because I'm a pretty hardcore feminist. But I was like, no, I'm done like working for people that have an issue with that. So yeah, just make your own kind of mind up about where you sit with that and what kind of employers you want to kind of align yourself with as well. Anyone want to workshop their LinkedIn? I'm just going to scroll back and double check because I think I missed a question. So what does my day look like as a cloud engineer? I'll talk about that at the end maybe. And what is wrong with take-home tests? Debbie, they're a barrier. So they're fine for people that are maybe neurotypical, like able-bodied, don't have like depression or anxiety, and who are privileged enough to have the time and energy to do those tests. So, you know, people that have, for example, maybe kids or that have to work like 3 jobs to be able to survive, like they don't have the time to do that. So I think that it basically encourages gatekeeping and keeps kind of privileged people in the industry and excludes people that are from like lower socioeconomic backgrounds or who are in minorities that might not be confident enough to want to do those things. So for example, for me, I remember with Zendesk, they had a grad hiring program, which I really liked. And I used to really want to work at Zendesk. And I was doing the take-home test, and I had kind of a rule that I wouldn't do it, but I made an exception. And they gave you a week, and they thought that was like really generous of them. And halfway through it, I think my brother has like psychosis sometimes, and like he'd gone psychotic in like Brisbane. I had to go up there, and I was just like, I'm not going to spend my time on this, and I don't want to work for someone that thinks that it's okay to ask me to do it. So I like withdrew because I was like, I'm not even gonna apply if that's what they think is appropriate to do to interns. It's also not take-home tests also aren't reflective of your ability on the job. They're not a true reflection of your ability or of your technical, like your ability to basically do the technical things you need to in your job. So like those are the kind of issues I have with them. But of course, most companies still use them. By whoever is going. Oh, thank you, Debbie. No one volunteered their profile. That's okay. I'm going to move on then. Landing interviews was the next item to talk about. So you've done your CV, you've got it like ready to go. You've done your LinkedIn, you've done a personal brand like audit, you've removed anything incriminating, and you are ready to actually start doing interviews. So how do you get to that stage? I recommend prepare now, even if you're in first year. As I said, it's a long game. You can also meet people or make contacts. So for example, I'm speaking here tonight because I spoke at a Google Developer Group event last March before I was even officially in a job, like I was still in an internship. And I got asked to speak at that event because I knew someone from Code Like a Girl who recommended me. And I got asked to speak tonight because a guy who saw me there that works for Google recommended me for tonight. So that process took like 2 years for me to be here with you. And I didn't ask for it. I didn't like consciously try and organize it. But these opportunities, I'm thinking about this because a few people recently have asked me, like, how do you speak? Like, how do you get into speaking? And for me, I didn't do anything to get into it. I got asked by numerous people numerous times if I would speak. When I was career changing into tech, I used to say no, because I was like, no, I'm not even working in tech. I'm doing a boot camp. And they were like, no, we want to hear that perspective of someone entering the industry. So I also encourage you to be really proud of where you're at and be really comfortable talking about your experiences and your journey, because that is something that other people can learn from as well. And one way to be open to those kind of opportunities, whether it's a job or like a speaking opportunity, or something that boosts your personal brand or your kind of credibility in the industry, is to just start preparing where you're at, like with what you have. The second point I made is align your CV and your LinkedIn profile to a specific role and to like the role in the context of that industry and potentially a company. So you can't always change your LinkedIn that much, but I would encourage you to make your LinkedIn at least have the keywords and the kind of transferable skills and technical skills that the jobs you're going for will have. So most of you are devs, so that would be whatever languages you're working on. So it's mostly Java, but also think about the programming concepts you're learning. So you're learning about functional and object-oriented programming. Put those keywords like in there or something similar. You're learning about other concepts and also other areas of the industry. So also include those subjects as you learn about them and keep your LinkedIn an up-to-date reflection of that. If your interests change, like change your personal summary to reflect that. Make sure your job title reflects software developer so that people can find you easily. In terms of your CV, that one I change really specifically depending on the role I'm applying for. Can anyone guess why? Why might I change the keywords in my CV based on a job advertisement? What, I know you're thinking about it, but as you think, yeah, good guess, like roles are different, search algorithm. Let me like ask some more questions. So yeah, to suit their needs is more onto it. Do you think, let's say a job gets like 800 resumes. Is it a human that sifts through those 800 resumes? How do they sort out the resumes that are more relevant to their job versus others so that they have a number that people can go through? It goes through like an automated system, right? So most companies today use like an automated system of some kind to filter resumes, and those are usually keyword based. So if a job ad, like they're probably going to take synonyms, right? Yeah, exactly, Chaamudi. So they're usually going to have some synonyms, so some words that have similar meaning, but sometimes maybe they'll just put in words that are from the job ad. So like I make sure that I have words and phrases that are from that job advertisement or that are like similar to it. And I make sure that I'm talking to the specific things they're looking for. So like if they're looking for leadership as well as something else, I'll make sure that I highlight in my resume a couple of times where I've shown leadership skills. Another example, I'll show you as well, actually. What time is it? Good, not too late. I'm just going to stop presenting and share my whole screen because I pulled up a few of my resumes from different times. So one was like when I was changing and I was just finishing my boot camp. One was a bit later than that and one was kind of more recently. So I'm just going to share my entire screen and then give me a minute while I just arrange them for you for your visual enjoyment. It doesn't look like this anymore, I don't think. I change my resume a lot. But yeah, so what I'll get you to have a look at first is can someone come off mute, speaking on mic, and just tell me if that's big enough for you to see, like, for example, my name?
Yep, it's good.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So if you look under my name, can you see on the left, I've got like full stack web developer, DevOps engineer, intern, and curriculum developer. Is it the same in all of the others? It's different, right? So this is from like when I was just coming out of my boot camp, and I was still, I kind of changed full stack web developer to software engineer because I kind of read articles about it and I like got opinions about it that I changed. So just make up your own mind, as I said, about the keywords you want to try, and you can always just change them. I also wanted to put that I was an intern, and so I didn't put junior for developer, but I did put intern for DevOps engineer because I wanted to be very clear that I was not experienced. And I kept curriculum developer there because as a career changer, I wanted to think about the transferable skills that I could bring into tech, as I said before. And curriculum is all about like structure and kind of being organized. And also tech has a huge gap in terms of both good documentation and good educational material. So I have found I was able to kind of almost immediately add a lot of value because I'm very good at documentation. I'm very good at editing and proofreading and structuring information. So that to me was kind of still relevant to a job and potentially appealing to an employer. I changed it later to put cloud engineer first when I knew that I would be working in cloud. But you can see I was still just an intern at that time. And then the later one was DevOps engineer. I changed like cloud to DevOps because I thought, I saw that cloud engineer wasn't coming up as frequently in searches. So I thought DevOps was more appropriate. And I also changed my profile. So I said I was a developer, I talked about what I was passionate about, and I also gave my background, the part of my background that I thought would be relevant. I changed that to being, to adding in that I'd been working in DevOps and cloud, showing that I was kind of changing direction. And when I was actually working as a cloud engineer, I just summarized that I was a career changer, and I kind of added in my background at the end. So I kind of changed the order of the information and what I pulled out in that personal profile. You can also call that a professional summary or a personal summary or summary. But I have that in there so they can kind of tell a bit about who I am. They can get a feeling for like, is she going to fit in well at our organization? And they can also get an idea of the type of role that I'm looking for. You can also see how I changed the technical skills as I kind of had more experience. So I just chose to use like competent and learning for fun. And I wanted to have that other section to show that I was always wanting to grow and learn. And these were things I was kind of just learning about in out of interest. Having said that, again, it's a privilege to have any time outside of work hours to work on your industry. And like, if you can't do that, that's okay. And I included kind of most of the skills. So those, for example, those ones were all from the boot camp. And this was from NAB when I was an intern, AWS and scripting. And I also thought about those kind of words and I looked at what people were putting in the job ads. So I probably put scripting that time in that resume because in the job it had scripting, because they often change those kind of words in job advertisements. So they'll have like scripting, some will have bash, some will have shell scripting. So I kind of will match it just in case they're using those exact keywords. In this one, I think I was using this for I think it was for cloud curriculum. So I think I did this resume because I got asked by the place I did the bootcamp at to write a cloud computing micro-credential for them. So I wanted both the curriculum and cloud engineer competencies there. And I kind of put all of those in there so that they knew, because I wanted them to know that I was able to kind of write independently and accurately. You can see the skills are really different there because I wanted to highlight the cloud, both cloud platforms and also containers, so Kubernetes. When I went to just the cloud, you can see I put cloud at the top, and then at the bottom was the kind of programming stuff and kind of condensed. And I ended up calling it shell scripting instead of scripting because I think, again, probably for a particular job. And in these little summaries, so when you do in your resume your experience, and if you have no formal experience, you still have experience in your projects. So you can have, for example, experience or projects, and you would have here instead a description of the project. So for example, app for whatever, customer service app or something. And then you would potentially have one sentence describing your role on it. So I worked on the development, the design and the testing of this application, which was for customers to book in services or something. Remember to keep it in plain English. Why do we want it in plain English if we're going for a technical role? Any ideas? Not yet. That's okay though. The reason is because, is it a technical person that is looking at your resume first? Most likely not. So your resume, to even get to a technical interview, which is towards the end of the process often, has to go through like the automated system, whatever they have, and then whatever process they have for filtering interviews, which is most likely recruiters or people and culture or HR. So they're called like different stuff. But those are people who aren't technical or who are like tech adjacent. So you want to make sure that you're telling a story with your CV. It's not meant to like bore people or meant to be super technical and make them not understand. It's meant to summarize the things that you've done so that they can take in that information in a kind of efficient way and understand whether like it matches like what you have and what they're looking for, kind of thing. So you can see as well, I kind of changed the way I talked about those things. So here I'm kind of explaining more clearly that it's a consultancy who are a Google partner, and I'm highlighting the kind of Google technology. I think that was for the cloud computing. That's why that makes sense. Here, I've just said interned for 5 weeks. I haven't said anything about the company because when I'm putting my resume together just as a cloud engineer, they don't necessarily need to know like who the company is until I get to the interview if they're asking me something more specific. What they do need to know is like what I am doing and what kind of projects I'm working on. And I'm putting things in the resume that I'm comfortable with them asking me about and that I'm then happy to talk to. So like I'm giving them an opportunity to say, hey, here, ask me about any of this stuff, and we can have a conversation about, you know, what I've done in more detail. I'm just going to stop presenting and share back. Yeah, exactly, Jacqueline. Not all HR are in tech. And Yi Jie, is it true that one column resumes are for this reason better? No, I think that most of them scan like and see the words like wherever they are. So from what I understand of the technology, no, but I don't know about it in like for sure. Thanks for all your questions. And let me just get back that tab and go back to our presentation. So the next point I had was nurturing your network. So I liked the word nurture because you do need to kind of tend to things a little bit. And it's important to consider the hidden job market. Does anyone know that term, hidden job market? So it's the idea of jobs that are not listed in like job platforms. Yep, Yi Jie, built on networks, exactly. So it's jobs that we can't see because they're not in print and they're not like published anywhere, but they are available. So for example, within a company, they might know that they need to hire someone, but they just might not have gone through the process of telling HR yet and putting a job ad out yet. And Jacqueline, yeah, referrals as well, exactly. So another way that there's a hidden job market is someone might refer someone and the company might not have a position, but they might make a position because they want to hire that person. So I've heard estimates that like the hidden job market is 90% of jobs. I don't think that that's true, but we don't know, and it's something that's very hard to measure. But it's definitely something I have had firsthand experience of, because being in those volunteer groups that I did, I would have people, I'd be very verbal about like what I was interested in and what I liked doing and where I was wanting to go. And so I would often have people come up and remember that and say, oh, I know that you said you were interested in that role. And it might have been like 6 months or a year ago. And they'd be like, you know, I just want to let you know it's coming up soon. Keep an eye out for it. So it's really good if you are making clear like where you're at and what you're interested in, so that people in your network can take note of that and can kind of let you know about opportunities as they come up. And you can also do that proactively. So you can put, you know, out to your network little updates about what you're doing. So we just learned about this project today. I'm really enjoying it because of this. I'd really love to work in a space like this one day. Or, you know, let me know if anyone knows of any good grad programs or something. Use your personal brand. So whatever, by personal brand in this case, I mean not just the information you have publicly available, but also you as a person, your unique mix of like your personality and the things you like doing and the things you like talking about. So if you're someone that likes helping people, maybe you would like to mentor or be a buddy at uni or be in a club that develops workshops for people. It can also be an area that you're skilling up in. So for example, for me, I loved tech before I could do it. And that's why I agreed to do that teaching with Code Like a Girl. But I learned so much from teaching something before I really knew about it. So when you're clear about what your kind of passions are, you can find those opportunities a little bit quicker sometimes to grow your skill set and to expand your skill set. The last point, apply strategically, is there to get you to just remember your time is finite and your energy is finite. And I had some people that there's this gross like phrase, you can say like spray and pray. They talk about it for like marketing, but it's when, you just like send out resumes and you send out job applications to like everything, just even if it's not relevant, and you're just going for like quantity over quality. For me, I was super, super picky about who I applied for. And I got a lot of interviews. I got a lot of interest in my applications. Of course, I got lots of rejections as well, but I made myself like a little rule, and I put this in later. I think I made myself a rule that if I got 100 rejections, then I could like feel upset about it. But until 100, like I was just going to be like, yeah, this is all good. And it was nowhere near that many before I got a job. So in terms of applying strategically, you get to choose your strategy. And if you want to go for quantity, that's up to you. But I think that you'll have, in my experience and from what I know from people in the industry, you'll have a better return on your investment if you are more conscious about the jobs you're applying to. If you do your research and you know about the company, for example, or if you know someone that works there, or if you get in touch with someone that works there. Are there any questions at this point? Cool, I'll just keep going. So, CVs. I had two questions for you. What is the purpose of a CV? And we've kind of touched on this a little bit. And how long does an experienced recruiter spend on it? Any guesses for either? And the picture is not correct. It's maybe an unfair picture. Yeah, so I've heard 6 seconds from some people. But I spoke to Kerry today and she was like, no, for an experienced recruiter, it's probably 30 seconds. So that's where she seemed very sure about it. So, and she knows more about it than me. So it's apparently 30 seconds, which is good news. It's more than 6, which is what I was thinking. And what is the purpose? For me, I think the purpose is that it's like a storytelling tool. It is like enabling you to have a conversation about and tell a story about who you are so that a company can tell whether you're the right fit for them. So maybe communication is like a better word than storytelling. But maybe the most common issue I see with CVs is that they're hard to look at and they don't make sense and they don't give me a picture of who a person is. So like I want to be able to look at something and from everything in that resume, tell a little bit about the feel of the person. Like, are they a cool person kind of thing? Not cool as in cool, but are they like someone I would work in a team with? So, Milindi, can we break people into groups of 3 or 4? Is that possible? If not, we'll just discuss it here. Yeah, cool. And will they still see the slide when we break into a group?
Actually, no. You'd have to go from one group to the next and share it with them.
That's okay.
Yep.
So could all of you just take a photo or like a screenshot, depending on what device you're on, of this slide? And we'll just break you into groups of 3 to 4. And I'm going to give you I might give you 3 minutes actually to talk through those questions. So just give like quick guesses. You don't have to like analyze them a lot, but we'll just do 3 minutes and then we'll come back in and go through them all.
Alrighty, breaking into rooms. Gwenny, do you want to hop into the groups as well?
Oh no, I'm happy not to.
Okay.
I mean, I can, but I might run to the bathroom actually.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, cool. I'll put my thing on. Pancho, are you in my group or are you off the hook for the activity? Hi there. Is there anything we haven't touched on yet? So like there's still a little bit more, but it's nearly 8.
Oh, I don't think it's I think it's okay if you go over a little bit.
We started a bit early though. I don't want to like exhaust people.
Oh no, I think people are very much engaged in this actually.
Oh really? I'll
Yeah,
just try and go a bit quicker.
Yeah, because yeah, I think people are interested. Okay. Oh, and before the Q&A session, actually, we're gonna have a raffle draw on our Discord for a $50 JB Hi-Fi voucher as well.
Cool.
So yeah, we should announce that. And we were wondering if it would be possible if we can take a picture before the Q&A session as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Post
Like a screenshot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I often forget to do them. But I love seeing those with like the Zoom screenshots.
Yeah, it's like so many people. And so much, yeah. I actually had a lot of fun with this workshop. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I was gonna check your LinkedIn actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if we can go
Let
back.
me have a look. Oh my god, what? Oh no, I did. I saw you when you added me, I think, or when you wrote to me.
Probably.
Yeah, that's so cool. The like Fin Review Top 100 leader. I love that. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah, and yeah, because this is the LinkedIn week of Job Ready Month, I think people would be keen on looking at it more as well. We can go back or something at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it looks really good though.
My one.
It looks great. Do we have to bring them back in?
Oh yeah, when do you want to?
Oh yeah, now it's fine.
Okay, I'll close the rooms.
Yeah, cool. I'm just gonna I'll go through these answers. There were things I was surprised about, some of them.
I think the workshop is going really well. Gwenny, thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're quick to close rooms now, so they should be here now.
Yeah, cool.
Ah, there we go.
Just writing a note for the next bit. Welcome back.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey. We didn't finish all the questions.
That's okay. It takes so long sometimes, so I was going to go quicker through, but that's okay. You didn't finish. Who said? I'll tell you the answers I know of. You can fight me if you want. Who said 1 to 2 pages is ideal? Correct. Yeah, I have mine 1. I'm like, if you can't get it on 1 page, like that's not good enough. But I've seen exceptions. So for example, my boyfriend's horrific resume, I got it down to 2, but he had a list of certifications like that long, and I was like, that's worth having on a 2nd page. So 1 to 2 max. Color or black and white? Color apparently stands out. Kerry felt very strongly about that. Yeah, I guess it has personality. But I would say consider how it looks printed in black and white, because I used to have that resume I showed you of mine, I used to have it in like grey. I thought grey and like fluoro green looked so cool together. And then I went to an interview and I saw they'd printed it out, it looked horrific. And so that's why it was white in the end. But yeah, just consider they might print it in black and white. People still tend to print things out to look at like while they're talking to you in some cases. What do they think about when they look at a CV? It's really like, are you a fit? Like, and are there any red flags, basically, like at a really high level? And then like, you know, do you have, do you seem like a person that would be an interesting person to have in the organization, or that has enthusiasm or has made some kind of like effort to learn about their subject and kind of take some care with how they learn about their subject. So for example, if it's like 6 pages long and all the information is like, you've given way too much information, that's probably telling them that you're not good at like organizing your thoughts, or that you are not considerate of people's time, for example. Not necessarily, but like it's something that they can take away from that as well. You probably had other really good ideas, like feel free to put stuff in the chat. I'll go through it quicker just because I want to get through some other things, and I'll probably go to like 10 past. Milindi said I could go a little bit late, and then we'll announce the winner of the prize, and then I'll take any more Q&A, and we can look at Milindi's LinkedIn and anyone else's LinkedIn. It's like a fun Friday night activity. Should you link to your personal profiles? Yes, if it has, like I said before, in answer, I think it was to PK's question. Yes, if it has information that shows you as just the person that you are. No, if you are like racist or sexist, or also if you just really want that privacy. Is it negative if you don't have stuff on your GitHub as well? I'll just put this one in here. I never had much on my GitHub. I didn't have like extra stuff, and I don't believe in doing work outside of work hours. So don't worry if you don't have, like lots of projects as well. It's like, particularly at entry level, you are not expected to know everything. So you're expected to show interest and enthusiasm. You're not expected to show like that you've built a million apps. Although like that's great if that's your thing and you've done that. Do they search your personal profiles online even if you don't provide them? Yes, probably. What shouldn't you include in a CV? Any ideas? Kerry said age, gender, date of birth, address, and high school were hers. Political views, yeah. I don't think that's appropriate in a CV. And photo, that is your call. I think for some recruiters, it's take or leave it. It depends. It depends on your personal opinion. I personally don't include it. But yeah, you can make your own call about that, about the photo. Should you include a professional summary? So that was in mine, whatever it was called, profile. A paragraph or sentence about like you, what you're looking for, who you are, definitely. Not only does it help with that automated part, but it lets them see immediately like a bit about you, and it lets them understand what you're looking for. So where you're at and what you're looking for. So you're being respectful of their time and you're being clear with your communication, which are both really great qualities. Should you include your grades from uni? If they're really, if they're quite good, yes, or if there's something you're happy to talk about. If not, you don't need to include it. Okay, yeah. So if GPA is above 3.20 or equivalent. Should you use full sentences or bullet points? I don't know why that question sounds weird to me now. It's both. It's a mix. So definitely where you can use bullet points. Why? Because the brain takes in information really easily that way. However, bullet points don't necessarily give like context. So I usually have actually bullet points and I have a summary sentence at the top. I ended up making my resume even smaller, so I removed that. But that's like one way you can organize it as well. So have like a mix, have full sentences in a summary, for example, or in your personal summary. Have bullet points for like lists or anywhere where you have a lot of information to make it more readable and more organized. Well done, everybody, for your guesses. Have a look at this nightmare. This is a screenshot from, this is my before and after of my boyfriend's resume. That's a screenshot from page 3 of 4. And he used bullet points, so that's good. What's good about it? It has bullet points. Apart from that, I literally read it for like half an hour and I couldn't understand like even one bullet point. It just made no sense to me with all of the other stuff. So what improvements would you make to something like that? Like potentially add more headings, break it up and delete like 95% of it is what I would say and what I did. So to show you an example, that was like 4 pages of like that, and I made it 1 page of that on the right. So I added like the profile, his skills. He's a like a lead engineer, like an operations engineer. I made all of his billion, thanks Thomas. I made all of his billion bullet points like 4 max. So you can consider doing something like that. Like again, like I said, you would have your projects and like the things that you did, and you might just have 2 or 3 bullet points if you have less experience, or if you want to highlight just the kind of main things you did. So in terms of structure and layout, I'll share these. I think Milindi shares these slides with you, but this is a little checklist for you. So is it well organized? And well organized means like appropriate headings that are meaningful with an appropriate font. So it's readable and it's highlighted as a heading by being like bold or italic or whatever. Have you organized the information visually? Can someone understand what the sections are without effort? Are your contact details near the top and easy to find? So I had that question, I think I skipped over it with the resumes. The number one thing people miss on a resume is apparently their phone number. Kerry said it's super frustrating and they want to talk to someone and they can't. So just double check you've got your phone number and your email address. Thanks, Milindi, great. Is it appealing to the eye and is it polished? So that just means that you've put thought into how it's organized. You've chosen like a color theme or no color, and fonts and sizes and shapes of everything on the resume that represent how you are comfortable being represented. Is it readable? And like, is your personal brand aligned somehow? So for me, like I wanted a pop of color because I love color and like vibrant colors, but I also love black and white. So it was like predominantly black and white. So that's probably a superficial detail. And lastly, is the information relevant to the specific role that you're applying for? So have you made your transferable skills and relevant project work highlighted? So if you're going for a junior dev role versus like a BA role, for example, you're going to highlight more of the communication and the planning and the delivery in the BA role. In your dev CV, you're going to highlight more of the actual kind of practical and technical tasks that you did, or the planning and design around those technical tasks. Does it tell a story about you as a person? And is the information accurate? So another guy at my work said that his pet hate with people applying for jobs is when they list a whole tech stack, but then they just did the documentation, for example. They didn't actually use that technology. So do put the things that you've worked on, and it's okay if it's that you've only worked on them a little bit, but don't present that information in a way that is misleading, so that then if you do end up in a conversation about it, you're kind of in an awkward position. Milindi's offered to workshop her CV. Where did it go? Why is it displaying like that? Can you see it still? No. Let me just unshare and share the CV. Just finding the tab. Okay, cool. So we've got Milindi's resume. So at the top, her LinkedIn and GitHub, she remembered her phone number and her Gmail, and I can really clearly see her name. I think that's great. Education at the top is appropriate for you if you are a grad or if you have no experience. When you have more experience, or if you have experience, like you want to put your projects at the top, I would put your education at the bottom. So it depends on the kind of level of experience you're at. So she has actual roles. So Milindi, I would say for you, put the education at the bottom. I'd start with your employment. You can also call it experience. You can call it like work experience. You can call it work or whatever, job history. Also, think about how you organize those things. So you might have volunteering in with your experience if you're a student, for example, because that is your relevant experience. You might have separated like volunteering or like passion project or whatever with project, like your work projects. So you can think about how you organize it. As long as it's in a logical way, that's fine. I like how she has clear headings. I like how everything is in these kind of clear lines with dates. Do you have to have the month and the year? Not necessarily. Whatever is more to your advantage. Software projects, cool that that's there, cool that there's a link. For me, you know how we talked about make the headings clearly headings? For me, because your headings are smaller and it's not standing out visually, so I'm kind of going, oh, what section is this? So potentially make those headings stand out more, like either italic them or make them all caps or make them a bigger font. That would be like my preference, to make it take less effort to understand. But it is well organized, and when you kind of go through, you can figure it out. I also would tend to put like these things closer together so you don't have to kind of read across, like jump your eye across. But again, that's like a tiny thing. I like that you've got the same structure too, that you've got leverage knowledge in each of those things at the end. So it's kind of, and you've got the summary sentence and bullet points. I really like that because it's a repeated structure where I know where I'm going to look to find the information I need. I would probably even put skills above experience because you have a lot, but they're also fine down the bottom. I would take away excellent and strong, familiar and good, unless you're going to visually organize those. So like in a table or something like that, because otherwise I'm kind of missing that information and it's kind of interrupting what I'm reading. So maybe just in 3 separate rows. You could also cull it. There's a lot of stuff. So I think when people are less experienced, they tend to like list everything out. You don't have to do that. But yes, this technology is all really great. And that's also something great to have on your LinkedIn. Thanks, Milindi, for being our little guinea pig. And I'll just come back and share my last slides before it's our competition. competition winners. So how to break into the industry, have your personal brand, have an empowering mindset, decide on your boundaries. So like how many jobs will you apply for, whatever that is, so you don't like lose your shit. Feel confident in where you are. You add value as a new person to a team with no experience at all, let alone if you have some experience, which you do if you're a student. The reason is you interrogate like their decisions and you are forcing them to justify the way they've always done things, which is also removing unconscious bias from the process of decision making. So even if you know literally nothing, you are an asset to a team and you need to like feel confident in that. I also really recommend people be aware of the current state of the industry. They are most STEM industries, particularly tech, which is where almost all of us are. They haven't always been inclusive, diverse or tolerant, and they are trying to change. So it's really good if you can be educated about those dynamics and if you can be an ally to minorities. To progress through the interview stages, I've just kind of put here for you to reference the kind of things you want to be thinking about. Definitely always prepare questions and prepare hard questions. I grill employees when I have interviews with them. I'm like, do you have equal representations on your leadership teams? How do you promote? Like, do you promote people internally? Do you support people to grow? What are people unhappy about in the company? Like, think of really hard questions that are going to tell you about the company and tell you red flags. I had here as well for you to think about what might be bad answers to these questions. So like, tell us about yourself is not an invitation to tell about your life story. It is saying, tell me in 1 to 3 sentences, what is relevant about you that I need to know. So all of those questions are not asking you, like even when it feels like a chat, you should still be thinking, how can I answer this question in a way that tells them the information that will help them make the right decision about whether I should work there. So you can think about what would be bad answers and what would be better answers. And finally, there's an example question, and all of those example questions are from actual interview questions for trainees or grads at the company I work at. So Kerry let us use them, except this last one, which is a behavioural question that I have both asked and been asked in interviews. So my tip for these kind of multi-part questions is write notes or have notes prepared for interviews, because it's really easy to go off track and to not organise what you're talking about. So think of ways, whatever ways you personally need to be able to organise like yourself when you answer those kind of questions. And remember, you're not answering a question. You are like giving them information, or you're telling a story about yourself so that they can make the right decision for both you and them about whether you working at that company is a good idea for both of you. No questions until after the competition. And thanks for letting me go a bit over, and thanks for all your questions and like participation so far. I'm sure you will all do great. Milindi, it's competition time.
Yep. Jackie, do you mind posting our Discord link on the chat? And
Yep, I'll share the screen first.
Alrighty. Oh, nope. Charm, are we ready?
Yep, we're ready. So,
Alright, everybody. Yep. Yeah, Charm, go ahead.
The raffle will be on our Discord channel in general. So what you have to do is, I'm going to post the raffle right away, and all you have to do is click the reaction button. There will be a party popper. You just have to click it to enter the raffle. So give me a second, and alright, it's posted. So go there and click the party popper, and I hope you win.
Yep, everyone is open to just click it.
Core team, please do not click. Okay, we have 2 contestants. 3. This will the one who wins will automatically be announced in 15 minutes. So you have 15 minutes.
Alrighty, while that's happening, Jackie, next slide. No, the slide before then. Yes, so we would like to take a photo of all of us left here. The ones who betrayed us for dinner, shame on you. But yes, everybody put your cameras on and let's take a funky photo. John and yep, Julie, all good. And John, I'm gonna assume that as a no, so I'm gonna just take a picture. Everybody, 3, 2, 1, go! Awesome, thanks. And please do enter the raffle, and we can continue on with Q&A now.
Good luck. Are there any Q&As, or did you exhaust all your questions? Are you full of knowledge?
I have a tiny question. So whenever I ask a professional engineer what people look for in the interview, they always say soft skills, but I'm not sure what I should include in the resume when you say soft skills.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's so funny because we just think of technical skills. I think with tech, or that for me, that's been such a focus, improving my technical skills, like as a career changer. And it was so important to me to work on those skills. But the skills that tech needs is soft skills, and I would argue they're core skills. They're not soft skills. I don't like the term soft skills. So you can include those in your CV, and you can also make a decision about it. So if they have in their job ad, for example, specific skills that they want, they'll often have quite a lot of them. It might be like leadership, or it might be communication. So if they've written any of those, you can talk to those. But if I show you again, sorry, I won't take over the presentation. But if you remember Milindi's CV, for example, or Abdullah's, they both have experience that shows that they have used those skills. So you can also make a decision about where you include those things. You can have them in a little section where you have skills or professional skills, and you just have bullet points of all of your skills. Remember, in one of mine, I had like communication, leadership. I can't remember all the ones I had. Like documentation I included, training, public speaking and editing. So those kind of skills you can have. You can have ones like communication, networking, or influencing. Like collaboration is a really important one in tech. So you can just list them in a bullet point in your skills list, and you can have some technical skills and some like soft or core skills. Or you can also have them in your experience. So you would have words like your bullet points would say like collaborated on a group project, or you might have led a team to do blah, 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 or worked as a group to solve problems, for example. So you can have it in both of those ways or in one of those ways. Does that answer your question?
So is it better to like go like, when you say I got my leadership skills, should I say more about it, like how I got my leadership skills, like through volunteering in this and that? Like, should I say that?
Yeah, I think that's good if that's relevant to the role, or if you know it's a position or a company where they value that. So you could have like leadership in your bullet points if you have a skills section or like a little summary section. And then you could have in your volunteer section similarly organized to how you have your job. So you would have like, I have that like on my LinkedIn. So I have like the volunteer organization. Actually in my CV, when you saw my jobs, some of those were volunteer positions. They weren't all jobs. And I just put in brackets volunteer position because for me, they were all super relevant skills to the jobs I was applying for. And when I wasn't even in tech yet, I was still involved with tech because I was volunteering for tech nonprofits, or like tech related nonprofits. So what you can do in that case is just either have them inside with your jobs or with your projects, or you can have a volunteer section and you put a summary of what you did so that they can read that quickly. And you would have either in the summary or in the bullet points or both what you did. So for example, your role, like led a team to do like whatever. And then in the bullet points, you would have like collaborated on solutions for events, worked in a small group to organize events, like whatever those kind of things were. And you just put as much or as little information about that as you think is appropriate for that role and to fit your resume in so that it's concise.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
Hi, I was wondering, how do you approach a person to network with them for the very first time you meet them?
And meet them in person or online?
I guess both, because I was concerned about in person. Now due to COVID, I'm also confused about online.
Yeah. Again, I would say that kind of depends on you and your personal like preferences and boundaries. So for me, volunteering and helping meant I just met so many people because that meant I was in a state to just introduce myself to anyone. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, I don't want them to be lonely. And so I would introduce myself and I was not at all like nervous or worried about it, you know? And to tell you like a story about how that benefited my job, when I was at a Girls in Tech conference that I had helped like organize, just doing the like marketing and stuff, I was talking to someone who was alone. I think I liked a jacket or something. Maybe just started talking to her because we were both like trying to eat cheese. Like something completely non-related to our work. We started talking and I was really curious about like what she did. She was the head of technology at an area in NAB. And I ended up mentioning like through a program, I was doing this program, Grad Girls. I don't know if any of you are doing that. It's where you get to like visit. You can also volunteer if you're a guy to help them. But each month they go to a different employer. I had missed the cutoff for the grad program at NAB, but because I was in that program, they were able to ask any of us for interviews. And I was talking to this guy and I said, he was an engineer and he was like, would you be interested in working here? And I was like, actually I would. But I missed the cutoff because a couple of guys in my boot camp had applied, so I knew it was closed. And he was like, no, we can interview you because you're in this program. And I was like, okay, yeah, that'd be cool. Thinking like he actually didn't mean it. And I also was like, yeah, I met this chick at like a conference actually recently. I think she works here in technology, Adele. And I kind of mentioned her and he was like, oh yeah, he's like, you know, she's in an area that is hiring. And so I ended up, someone called me for an interview. And then because I had mentioned I knew her, he had called her into the interview. So she was like a really high head up of something, which I didn't know. But it meant that instead of having like this stressful interview, I had this really nice conversation about just what we were interested in tech and stuff, and got that role. So I think it has to be reflective of what you feel comfortable with and where you're kind of not necessarily in your comfort zone, but where it's something you want to be doing, because I think that comes across. When I was at other networking events and was kind of horrified to be there, I didn't meet anyone and I would have looked really awkward. I was like super uncomfortable and I wasn't in a headspace to like communicate with other people. So PK, you're already in like GSDG, which is great. Like you're already running events. You can potentially reach out to people and say like, I do this group. I saw you talk on this topic. I would love to talk to you about it more and get some advice from you on how I can learn more about that topic or something. So like it kind of depends on like the person you're trying to reach out to. But if it's on LinkedIn and whatever the connection is between that person, so like you've seen them speak, you saw them post an article, I mentioned that Google woman, and I saw her share like a story. She'd shared like a little Google anniversary picture they'd made her after 2 years. And then I went and looked at her profile, which I also don't normally do. But I was like, oh, she's really high up in Google and she's a woman, like that's cool. And I went through her job history and it was like really exciting to me. So it's kind of like if there's any personal like feeling like that, that's genuine, or you have a shared interest, like reach out and just talk about that to them. And also be comfortable if they ignore it or they say no, you know. It's totally okay. Like also on LinkedIn, like a lot of people don't check their messages, for example. So don't take it personally. But yeah, I think online, find whatever connection it is and think about what you would like to connect with them about. So it's like, do you want to meet up? Do you want to ask them questions? Do you want advice? Do you just want to follow them? Like, just be really clear about what you are intending. And in person, for me, it's been really about making a personal connection. So talking to someone and just being curious about them has like literally got me like every job and every speaking opportunity like I've ever done, unintentionally. Like I haven't organized anything. I haven't asked to speak at anything. People have always come to me. I have only been interested in people and talked to them about what I was interested in. And then they've been like, oh, I remember you said you love speaking about this topic, you know, could you do this keynote? So yeah, just I think about what you are kind of intending and just be really clear about what excites you, and then make those kind of connections from that place. I hope that's not like too vague.
It makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a great question, and it's a common question as well. I would also add to that one, think about your boundaries. So for me, I was getting burnt out going to so many meetups because I was new doing the boot camp. I was trying to work to pay like for my rent. So I was doing like freelance curriculum writing around the boot camp, and then I was trying to go to heaps of meetups because I was like, oh my God, I have to learn like everything. I don't know anything. I'm like 37 now. So when I was doing the boot camp, I was like 35. I'm like, all these guys in my class are like 22. I have to I'm too old. Like I have to know more to have an edge to even get a job. I was like spiraling about it. And eventually I heard this introvert woman talk about how she made a little quota for herself. And she just kind of thought about herself as like a CEO managing her energy, which is also something that makes sense to me. And she would be like, okay, in terms of like my energy and my resources, I get really depleted by social events. And so she thought, I will, you know, put a quota on it and I'll just decide on an amount that I'm happy with. And then that's what I'll do. And if I do that, I don't have to do anything else. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to decide like I'll go to one professional event a month. Ideally also one meetup a week. And because I was also going to conferences and stuff. And yeah, once I did that, it really took the pressure off me and I stopped feeling like I had to go to everything. And I would kind of, then when I did go to things, I was in a much better place to like be open to the information that I was receiving. Because I remember going to meetups and just staring at stuff and like, you know, willing my brain to understand it. But just being like, I don't understand any of this. Like it was like really advanced technical concepts by some person that like couldn't communicate well. And it just made me feel stupid. So yeah, I think also think about like for you and your energy, how do you balance that with like your life and your interests and stuff?
We also have a question from John in the chat.
Oh yeah, I forgot to check the chat again. I'd scrolled up. So thanks to Wei as well, you left. I have a question for later with the content creation thing. What if you publish your own content that's somewhat related to what you're doing, but you do not associate your own name to it and want to show it to certain employers? So it depends if you have like an NDA, like a non-disclosure agreement, or if you can negotiate something with them, or if they have any public like collateral. So sometimes if they're trying to sell something or do something, they'll have like a, you know, like a little advertisement or a little brochure or something online that you can use and include in like your portfolio or as a link, or you can put it in your in your LinkedIn. So for example, when I did a curriculum thing, we couldn't print the books out or the courses out because they were like private, but the company had made a little like printable PDF to sell it. So you can ask also like your sales team of the company, do you have any collateral or like assets, whatever they call it, that you can share? And you could say like, you know, with someone that is interested in the product or something, or you can say like, I would like to showcase this, and just have a conversation with them and like, are you happy for me to present these screenshots or like whatever you think will look good? Maybe prepare that for them and ask like, is it okay with you if I share this? Can I have your permission? That's what I would think is how you can go about that, is just having a conversation with them if they don't already have any like public facing stuff that you can use. Failing that, if they're like, no, you can potentially do something yourself that is similar to that. Or you can summarize what you did and maybe even like, I don't know, provide a link to something similar or something. I hope that answers that question. I hope I understood it properly.
Okay, so I had another question. So for preparing a job search part, you did talk about developing a clear vision and direction for yourself. And later we also talked about how we can make our LinkedIn a bit diversified, so web developers can search us for DevOps, and how engineers we can have well-rounded. How does these two things go together? Like if I was to like have a clear vision, for example, for my LinkedIn, I have made this mentor, teacher kind of role, and that's what I also follow for Twitter. And how do I like change it? How do I like diversify it into like, I can talk about web dev, and I can talk about software engineering and data science.
Yeah, like add it in. So if I take the presentation back and go to wherever we had, go to my profile, but we also had Milindi's, I think. I'm just going to share that back. So for me, I've changed mine like a bunch of times. Like I showed you on my resume, whatever I had on my resume, I also put on LinkedIn. I kept speaker there. So I'm also a writer and an editor and a proofreader and like a course designer and a learning designer and a musician. But I was like, I don't really care if people know I'm a musician or not. I do like speaking, and I find that I think it's important for representation as well to have minorities speak in tech, because part of the barriers for minorities entering tech is like seeing people like them. So for me, I did include that because I was like, okay, it's not like cloud engineering, but it's something I do and it's relevant. And I wanted to keep curriculum development because I love it and I still do it. So for you, you can potentially have topics instead of roles if you've got quite a lot. So you can have like mentor speaker, and then like with the pipes, and then like data science. What were the other topics? Data science, web dev, and
software engineering.
Cloud.
Yeah. So you could have like those topics, or you could have them first. So you could have like web dev, cloud, data science, mentoring, speaking. You could have all nouns. And you could have like mentor, speaker. You could separate it with commas and have like mentor, speaker, technologist, and then like have in your summary, I love talking and learning about these topics, like data science, list them in your summary. So it kind of depends if you're wanting people to just know about the direction you're going in, or if you're actually kind of going for roles and one specific role. So like if you're like, oh, I really want this data science job at this company, like more than any of the other roles, then you would probably put data scientist or like aspiring data scientist in your first position of your first job, and then maybe other things after that. So it kind of depends on like, is there something that you want more than something else? And can you cover things off like by dividing them into things you're covering in your title and things you're covering in your summary? And maybe if there's you've got a particular title you're focusing on, that's fine, and you just put the other stuff like in the summary. So I think it kind of just changes as your focus changes and as your opportunities change. Yeah, that's how I would handle it. You're welcome. Is it time for people to leave?
Yeah, so I think let's wrap up.
Jackie, do you mind sharing the slide?
I just hid, yeah, sorry. I mean, stopped. Oh, I didn't stop sharing. Whoops. Stop. Oh, good.
Yep.
Well, everybody, it's a wrap. Thank you all for coming. These are our socials, and Jackie will share them on the chat as well. So, feel free to follow us, comment, and show us some love, obviously. Yep, next slide, Jackie. And next week, we will be having a machine learning workshop. We will tell you the project that we're building at a later date, or we won't. You'll find that out during the workshop. And you can just go to our website, and for the upcoming events, you will see it there. And yes, definitely come for it. Next, or is there a next slide actually? And yes, thank you for coming, and thank you so much for Gwenny for speaking to us about the resumes and LinkedIn and personal branding. That was really awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And for our attendance as well, thank you so much for coming. And I think Dway won the raffle, so we will follow up with him and get things sorted out there. And good night, everyone. Bye. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Gwenny. Bye.
Pleasure. Bye.
See ya.